The Blackburn Botha is perhaps one of the worst aircraft to ever be produced. Problems with this aircraft are quite a fair way off being short, and its reputation in service is hardly full of praise. So how did this aircraft become to be so bad? The story of the Botha begins in 1935, when the Air Ministry issued specification M1535. This called for a twin-engine torpedo bomber general reconnaissance aircraft that housed a 3-man crew and could carry a torpedo. Blackburn started working on a design, as did Bristol, which would become the Bristol Type 152 Beaufort bomber. Both designs were to be centered around the Bristo Perseus engine. However, in 1936, the Air Ministry changed the requirement when they decided the aircraft should have a crew of 4 rather than 3. The Perseus engine would prove to be inadequate for the increase in weight this change would result in. The new chosen engine was the Bristol Taurus engine. However, this was only available in limited numbers and thus only given to the Beaufort program. The Botha had to lumber on with the underpowered Perseus engines. Still, in December 1936, alongside the Beaufort, the Botha was ordered off the drawing board, with the Air Ministry placing an order for 422 examples. The first version of the Blackburn B-26 Botha took to the skies on the 26th of December 1938. The aircraft was all-metal construction with flush riveting. Power was initially given by two 880 horsepower Bristol Perseus 10 engines, although most Bothas would be powered by the 930 horsepower Perseus 10A engine. Armament consisted of one fixed forward-firing machine gun and 2 Lewis guns in a dorsal turret. Bomb load was either a single 18-inch torpedo or 2,000 pounds of bombs. When testing began at the Aeroplane and Armament Experimental Establishment, many issues with the aircraft were quickly found. Firstly, it was woefully underpowered. Then it was criticised for many things, including poor longitudinal stability, poor elevator control, a high stall speed, and large amounts of exhaust fumes entering the cockpit. This was not to mention that due to the design of the aircraft and placement of the engines, the pilot could essentially not see sideways or behind the aircraft. Some modifications did fix some of the minor problems. It also did pass torpedo and mining trials. Even with these problems, the Botha continued on into RAS service, with the first being delivered in December of 1939. During 1940, significant numbers were taken on stock and sent out to training units. However, in April 1940, the decision was made by the RAF that the Botha would not be utilised as a torpedo bomber, and if it was to enter operational use, would only be with general reconnaissance units. This is a rather interesting decision, considering the pilot was essentially only able to see straight out in front of him. It didn't take long for the Botha to earn itself an unfavourable reputation with crews. This wasn't helped when there was 4 fatal incidents involving Bothas between the 5th of March and 8th of July 1940. The first frontline unit to be equipped with a Botha was No. 608 Squadron of Coastal Command based at Thornaby. They would be the sole squadron to be fully operational on the type. Some did arrive at 502 Squadron before being quickly withdrawn. No. 608 Squadron started equipping on the type in July 1940 and undertook their first operational sortie on the 10th of August. They often undertook coastal patrols over the North Sea, and their last sortie on the type occurred early November 1940. From here they transferred onto the Avro Anson. With No. 608 Squadron giving up the Botha's frontline career came to an end. From here they were pressed into training schools where they were utilised extensively. As many as 20 training units, 9 schools of technical training, and the target towing unit all utilised Bothas. 8 were converted to target tugs. It is said at one point the School of General Reconnaissance at Squires Gate, Blackpool, had more than 100 Bothas in their inventory. However, most training units didn't seem to keep Bothas overly long. In 1941, 9 units were equipped with Bothas, but all had given them up by the end of the following year. No. 3 School of General Reconnaissance was one squadron which utilised them extensively and for some of the longest periods, using them between November 1940 to December 1942. With training units, losses still did occur, however they were much less and it performed acceptably. Still, wherever the Botha went, it could never quite shake its bad reputation. In August 1943, those Bothas that remained were declared obsolete and sent to the scrappers. In all, some 580 examples were built and a further 676 were cancelled. At some stage there does seem to be plans drawn up for a more powerful version with Bristol Hercules engines, designated the Botha Mark II, but this was never proceeded with. For an aircraft considered so bad, it is surprising to see such a high production number. When compared to the Beaufort, which was delivered to the same specification, the Botha was by far the inferior aircraft. The Botha wasn't a great aircraft, in fact it was quite a bad aircraft, and definitely can go on the list of bad and dangerous aircraft of the Second World War. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to go leave a like and subscribe for future videos. In the meantime, keep flying high.